So people, welcome to 1000 Words. My name is Radu, I'm a street photographer from Romania, and today I'm having golden brows. So cheers, fellas. Oh my. Tasty. Tasty. The subject of today's video is this guy right here. This is the Sony 40mm f2.5G lens. Welcome to another lens review. It's been a while. So yeah, this marks quite a momentous occasion because this is my first ever autofocus lens review. I've done quite a few of vintage lens reviews. They were all manual lenses from the film era, but now, like probably most of you already know by now, I've completely given up on vintage manual lenses and switched to using modern autofocus lenses. So here it is, the Sony 40mm f2.5, my desert island lens. The first lens I got for the Sony a7R III after switching from vintage lenses. I'll touch a bit upon the reasons why this was my first choice. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I want to remind you that today I'm going to pick out a winner for my giveaway. Right before I do, I will address some issues I have noticed. Surprising issues, things I couldn't have foreseen, but I do have to talk a bit about that. Stick around, watch this video till the end, and find out if you're one of the winners. Let's get a few things out of the way. So I've started to develop a habit lately. I've made notes, and because every reviewer worth his salt will eventually touch upon the technical specifications, and because I'm not going to be asked to memorize these things, I will just read them. This Sony lens, the 40mm f2.5G, was announced in March 2021. It features an aspherical design, an optical construction consisting of 9 elements in 9 groups, 3 of which are aspherical elements. It has an internal focusing mechanism, hold that thought, because it will prove to be quite important. A dual linear motor, which is slightly overkill if you ask me, but it sure does make for fantastic, excellent, precise, flawlessly good, silent and precise focusing. It's compact, it's got a dust-proof and weather-resistant design, which is great. I can't overemphasize this. A 56.8 diagonal field of view, an automatic diaphragm control with click stops at every third of a stop, and also the ability to completely turn off those clicks, with 7 slightly rounded aperture blades, a minimum focusing distance of 28 centimeters, that's in autofocus, because it can go closer than this once you manual focus, weighing in at around 173 grams, which roughly equates to a couple of large potatoes. Before we get into the image quality side of things, before we talk about build and handling, I do want to touch upon the reason why this is my desert island lens, why this was the first lens I considered when I began building my autofocus lens kit. And that has everything to do with versatility, build quality, ease of use, size, and build, also cost. I got this secondhand off a guy in my city for something like 380 euros, which is all right, not really cheap, but seeing how this lens is upwards of 400, closer actually to 500 euros, but still I think I got a pretty good deal with it because I was able to go ahead and actually try the thing. And I talked about versatility, and that's the number one reason why I got this lens. 40mm is my favorite focal length by far. I think this might change soon, but I'm not entirely certain because I bought this, the 24 millimeter. This is about 2 days old. I just got this on, now it's Sunday, it's Saturday now, and I think I got this on Wednesday or Thursday, and I'm loving the living daylights out of this. However, it's still not my favorite lens. This is. First of all, 40 millimeters is the do-it-all focal length. I've fallen in love with this focal length ever since I used the Konica Hexanon 41.8, twice reviewed on the channel. So if you're interested, go see that video. But safe to say, with that lens, I figured out that 40 millimeter, once quite an unpopular focal length, has everything that's good about a wide-ish focal length and everything that's good about a long-ish focal length. As far as I'm concerned, for my specific use case, it can easily replace a 35 millimeter focal length, and that's the very reason why I don't own a 35 millimeter focal length. And as long as I own this, I will not consider a 35 millimeter. I simply don't see the point. This is wide enough to fit in quite a bit of context, quite a bit of the environment, and it's good for practically everything. I'm a street photographer. I do documentary work, reportage, even stuff around the house, shooting my daughter and my wife, and it's great for that. Now, it also has the best things of a standard 50 millimeter. While not being an actual 50 millimeter, it's still long enough to allow for a bit of separation. It's the best of both worlds, if you ask me, coupled with the fact that it's got a really awesome build quality and design. It's entirely made out of metal. I think it's a hard aluminum shell, but no doubt there's plastic inside, quite a bit of plastic, because no further than the aperturing, which has really, really solid, well-defined clicks every third of a stop, and I do enjoy a dedicated aperturing on my lenses, it still feels a bit plasticky. And this was only further confirmed when I got the 24 millimeter here. This was bought secondhand, so it has seen a bit of use. This was brand new, and there's a very noticeable difference in how the aperture mechanism feels and sounds. Let me try and do a demonstration for you. This is the 40 millimeter. It sounds a bit plasticky, a bit hollow. Now, in comparison to the 24 millimeter, which was new, sure, this has the advantage of being mounted on the camera, while this has the disadvantage of having a plastic rear cap on its end. So it will further add to the sound of hollowness. But I did mount this, obviously enough, I did mount this on the camera, and there is a difference in how the aperturing feels and sounds. The one on the 40 millimeter feels less precise and sounds a bit more hollow, as if the plastic grooves, because I am confident there is plastic in the aperture mechanism here, the grooves have started to wear out a bit. Now, I'm not actually concerned this will eventually turn into anything that proves to be a problem. But sure enough, it's worth mentioning that this, while feeling quite great, the clicks, again, are well-defined, confident, and feel great. They do have that distinct feeling of plastic, while vintage lenses are in a league of their own. They feel and sound completely different. That aside, the build is actually quite incredible. The lens is tiny. Just look at it. That's with no caps. It has a rubber O-ring here, a weather sealing gasket, and if I'm not mistaken, 11 separate seal points across the barrel. It has also got a very controversial, I'm going to go ahead and say it, a very controversial lens hood. It's slightly tapered inward, and while personally I find that it looks great, it really does. It really does look actually kind of special. I love this design. It also has the very functional purpose of keeping water away from the front element, if it rains, it really has to be raining horizontally, or you have to hold this lens like this in order to get any sort of water droplets on the actual lens element, because it being tapered inward, it does a great job to protect the front element from debris, from accidental hits, from water, because sure enough, this has a weather resistant design, so there's no worries about taking it outside. There's a click on and off button on the side here, a customizable button on the other side here, which I have programmed to work as a focus magnify, just a short centimeter upwards of the autofocus to manual focus switch. So the way I use this, when I do need to use manual focus, which is not that often, but when I do, I just switch the lens to manual focus, use the button on the side here to zoom in, to magnify and achieve critical focus, and I find that is working great for my specific needs. The focusing ring is really smooth. It's really, really smooth. Again, showing sign of wear, because the focusing ring on the 24mm I got here has a bit more resistance. It's feeling like it's not seen quite as much use, actually hardly at all. Now, the focus ring still feels really smooth. It's a linear focusing system, so when you do use the manual focus, while it still is a focus by wire system and the lens elements inside are electronically activated, there's no actual mechanical coupling between the focus ring and the elements inside that achieve focus. It still feels really great when you do need to use manual focus. There's just the right amount of resistance, perhaps slightly, ever so slightly less than I would have liked, especially now that I've been able to compare it with the brand new 24mm G. Now, as far as build quality, this inspires confidence. It's really, really light. There is a bit of a rattle once you shake this lens, but there's no rattle once it's mounted on the camera. If you're picking up, let me just turn on the camera. There's absolutely no rattle once you mount this lens on the camera. And sure enough, I would prefer everything to be really firm and fixed in place, but that's gotta be the internal focusing system. And I asked you to hold this thought earlier because this is really, really important to me. I have the 24-8G, the 40-5G, and the Sony size 55mm f1.8. Oh boy, is that a good lens. Review incoming, but until that, I do have to say that all my lenses have been specifically, among other reasons, I have also specifically chosen them to feature an internal focusing system. That's for several reasons, one of which that it serves to keep dust away from the innards. And also, I love the fact that it doesn't extend when you focus. It's really a compact design. Also on the subject of build quality, while I don't necessarily often shoot in humid or rainy conditions, I do strive to purchase all lenses featuring a weatherproof design. And that is because it offers peace of mind. Of course, I don't see how it's even possible to use every single feature a camera or a lens offers, but I do appreciate the peace of mind I get from knowing this lens or camera, if we're talking about cameras, has X, Y, or Z feature that's there waiting for that very moment when you do need it. You know, there's a saying, it's better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it. So there you go. That's why I appreciate a weather sealed as much as it actually is, because this is a whole another discussion how much it actually works protecting the innards of the lens from damage, but I'm confident it is better protected than a lens that doesn't advertise any weather sealing at all. I think that's pretty much it on the subject of build quality. I'm really a sucker for well-built small lenses, metal lenses. I'm really fond of an all-metal design, and I do appreciate a metal focusing ring much more than I enjoy those that are rubber covered. Rubber tends to age in such a way that it often turns white, it often loses flexibility, it can swell, it can become loose. Well, metal never does. I've seen a review recently when somebody complained about the fact that a Sony lens had a metal focusing ring. That's the way I see it. That's how I like it to be. So I think this is practically, well, never having owned a G Master lens, I can imagine and fully understand why people call it a mini G Master. While still being only a G lens, it's basically full of features, and this practically leaves us with the discussion of actual image quality. The Sony G40mm f.5 is without a doubt pretty great. It makes images that are sharp even wide open, exhibiting an almost flawless edge-to-edge sharpness. Yeah, the corners do get ever so slightly soft at f2.5, but I only mention this for the sake of accuracy and transparency because really for practical purposes, images shot wide open are perfectly usable. While admittedly being somewhat slow at f2.5, the Sony G40mm f2.5 can really make remarkably pleasant blur if you focus close enough to your subject and mind your background. The bokeh can show distinct edges of objects, which makes some people call it busy or nervous, but I personally think this just adds a bit of personality, some pizzazz to the images, which is something this lens otherwise definitely lacks. Bokeh balls are round and frankly charming in the middle and tend to get elongated, cat-eyed shaped towards the edges, but this is a look I rather enjoy. Colors are pretty, they're bright, playful and vivid, showing an earthy, somewhat slightly unsaturated demeanor. They're certainly not flat or dull, but a bit of extra saturation in post-production is required. While really sharp, honestly perhaps too sharp at times, the 40mm Sony G is gentle with human skin and it makes it shine with a soft, flattering, natural glow, which makes it pretty great for portraits. Now, as far as monochrome work, this lens works well enough. Images come out contrasty and punchy without being over the top. Tonal gradation is well represented and the transition from the darkest shadows all the way through midtones and to the bright highlights is smooth, natural, yet accurate and precise. The highlights are bright, they're shiny, they seem like they're glowing, while the shadows are deep and inky. This lens makes images that look clean and refined without being overly clinical, and sharp as it is, it still manages to render natural-looking images, avoiding that harsh digital feel that plagues a lot of modern lenses. As you have undoubtedly seen from these images, this lens is quite a solid performer. The 40mm f2.5G from Sony is fantastic in all ways but one. The only real criticism I have against it is the fact that it's basically completely lacking in any sort of character. It's got no personality, it's got no soul, and while sure enough, most of its contemporaries also lack any sort of character and soul, this is the sacrifice. Advances in technology and our desire to optically correct for this and that have brought us the lack of character. However, I am happy to say that, and also happy to spoil a future review for you, the Sony Zeiss 55mm f1.8 has a bit of a character while being stupidly sharp. It's almost like a modern vintage, but I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to further spoil things for you. I will backtrack and mention the fact that this lens is, all things considered, still my desert island lens, and I'll drink to that. Were I to use a single lens for the rest of my life, were I to stick to Sony for the rest of my life, and use a single lens, this would be it. I have no doubt in my mind. Give me all the money in the world, I would not trade this for anything else. Sure, G Masters are better, faster, you name it. They lack in one regard. They have a big disadvantage as far as I'm concerned. I value a compact design, a lightweight size, together with a versatile, dependable lens, and this lens has it all. For those reasons, I'm willing to let it slide that this lens has basically zero character. It's great, it makes wonderful images, and I've made images that are very dear to me with this lens. This brings us to where we pick out the winner for the giveaway. Before we scoot over to the computer and use one of those comment picker websites, I do want to address a bit of confusion. I'm not actually going to apologize, but I do want to offer some clarification. The way I titled my video, we have the Fujifilm X106 at home. That seemed to have confused a lot of people. On the one hand, I am slightly disappointed with the confusion, and it certainly, hand on my heart, God is my witness, it certainly wasn't the point. It's not something I wanted to happen. It just did. What I did want to happen was to have a bit of an edgy title, something that would bring views, because, hey, this is the YouTube game. You have to bring in views, you have to make people watch the video. What I didn't think would happen, but did, was the fact that people misinterpreted that title to mean like I am giving away the Fujifilm X106. Well, I made it perfectly and abundantly clear from the very get-go that the object of my giveaway was not, in fact, the Fujifilm. It was never my claim, and furthermore, I think I mentioned it twice in the video while actually showing the very objects of the giveaway: the Industar 50mm 3.5, the Sony compact camera, the Samsung film compact camera. I never for a second meant to deceive anybody. I didn't for a second paint this as anything else than it was. I even wrote it down in the description plainly and obviously, clearly, for everyone to see what the object of the giveaway was. But I was very surprised to find out that people were expecting this to be a giveaway of the Fuji X106. And while I'm sorry for the misunderstanding, I'm really not sorry for the fact that you guys out there, some of you, have the attention span of a wet napkin and don't bother to read descriptions, don't bother to watch the actual video, and just blindly and mindlessly comment away asking for a Fujifilm camera. A lot of you didn't even meet the criteria, so there's really a very limited amount of compassion I have for you guys. Well, sure enough, I wish I could offer you a Fujifilm X106. It's really not the point. The point is, the terms and conditions of this giveaway have been very clear in the video itself, in the video description. So if any of you feels like you have been deceived, this is entirely on you, because you have not watched the video. Because if you had, you would have seen the actual things I was giving away. Also, if you had read the damn description, you would have seen the actual things I was giving away. So I think I've done my due diligence to be upfront and transparent about it. It's entirely on you. Well, I fully expect to send this to somebody that's going to win this. And I'm going to be giving free stuff away, and I'm going to be shipping it to you for free on my own cost. I fully expect you guys to be disappointed. And for this very reason, I think this will be the very last giveaway I do. And while I don't claim this is any sort of a big value prize, this is still free stuff I could have very well kept for myself, but I decided to give to you. And this is the way of the internet right now. People will complain. People will undoubtedly be disappointed by this. The only thing left for me to say is sorry, not sorry. That said, let's scoot over to the computer. Let's pick out the winner. And yeah, good luck. Good luck, fellas. So here we are. This is the URL of the video. I have added comment replies because some people have complained that apparently YouTube was deleting their comments, and I do want to make sure I include everyone. I have also checked here, filter duplicate users, because some people have been sending 3, 4, or several replies, and these should not count as extra chances. Now, let's just solve the CAPTCHA here. Get YouTube comments. And sure enough, this is when we click start, and we'll hopefully have a winner. See, now, this is why we need to roll again, because one of the requirements was to put your Instagram handle in your comment. This comment does not feature an Instagram handle, so it will not count as a valid entry. Picking again. Sure enough, this does feature an Instagram handle, newguy.jpg. Pretty great, pretty awesome as far as usernames go. There's still 2 more requirements we have to check if this guy meets. One would be if Deathblade10913 actually subscribes to the channel. So people, this is the video. Deathblade1093. He is indeed a public subscriber. There's still one more requirement. Let's see if he follows me on Instagram. We're going to open up Instagram here. Where is the search button? And search for new guy. Newguy.jpg. Sure enough, he follows me, and to my shameful disgrace, I don't follow him back. So here it is, buddy. Have my follow. And pretty nice. All sorts of photography here. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. I hope you're not one of those fellows that expected a Fujifilm X106. I do hope you paid attention. I do hope you enjoy the actual stuff I'm giving away. So let's just message you on here and tell you you won. Hello. You won the giveaway. I can't spell. Give away. Remember this, and let's put the link here. So now we have a winner. This is my first review of a modern autofocus lens. At least 2 yet still to come. I will no doubt review the 55mm f1.8 Sony Zeiss. I love that lens. It's simply stupidly good. I have already fallen in love with the 24mm f2.8G. That's great as well. Really damn great. It's the second time I've owned this lens. But until then, thank you for watching this video. I have been Radu. This has been yet again a million damn words. Thank you for watching. Until next time, farewell.